Faces dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Thursday. It's November 5th. We'll be taking your Thursday thoughts. We'll be taking those on Twitter, at Soccer Down Here, via email, soccerdownhere@gmail.com. Or you can come hang out on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/soccerdownhere. We got a lot of stuff to get into. You had MLS last night. The playoff picture is pretty clear going forward as to who needs what on Decision Day on Sunday. We'll break through all of that morass of madness. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about UEFA putting some pressure on FIFA to better define a handball. That'll be helpful. We'll talk about a red card in Orlando that I feel like I'm missing something because I thought it was a red, but everybody else in the free world thinks it wasn't. So I think I'm wrong, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about Monterrey and their treble that is kind of unique, but a huge accomplishment for Los Rayados. We'll talk about some craziness in the Copa Sudamericana, and we'll start with just a question before we get into it. We'll move into MLS, but I want to put this question out there because I want the takes on it. So, Manchester United defensively, horrible result on the road in Turkey because the pressure domestically is massive on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Is Saturday, going into the international break, is Saturday a must-win for Ole to keep his job? Let us know what you think, because there are also reports in the Manchester Evening News that Mauricio Pochettino has been contacted. Again, this would be the second time in the last month or so. And he's on deck, hanging out, waiting. So is this a must-win? Let us know what you think. Tweet at us, email us, join us on the Twitch pitch, and tell us. Okay. Let's get into MLS because this is important when it comes to Atlanta United. It's important league-wide. So your results last night. Orlando wins 2-1. Winning goal comes with 10 men on the pitch. Huge, huge win for Orlando. Minnesota falls behind 2-0, comes back to draw 2-2. Dallas goes to Nashville and wins 1-0, and that's a huge result for Dallas. Nashville has looked really good up to this point. They did not look good last night. Portland does not beat Colorado. Colorado clinches their playoff spot with a 1-0 win. LAFC does not beat San Jose. San Jose clinches their playoff spot with a 3-2 win. And the LA Galaxy get a goal from Chicharito, but it's not enough to keep their playoff hopes alive. They draw with Seattle 1-1. So, standings going into Decision Day. Eastern Conference, you don't have to worry about points per game. It's not going to matter for any of the teams that are in the Eastern Conference. Philadelphia, Toronto, both on 44 at the top. Orlando City is on 41 going into Decision Day. However, they cannot pass Philadelphia or Toronto on tiebreakers because Philadelphia and Toronto have 2 more wins. So Orlando cannot get to second place. Columbus is 3 points back from Orlando, so Orlando's in the driver's seat for third place. New York City's in 5th on 36. New England is in 6th on 32. Play-in round right now. Red Bulls are in 7th on 29, ahead of Nashville due to wins, who are also on 29. Montreal is in 9th on 23. Chicago is in 10th on 23. Atlanta's on the outside looking in on 22. Miami's on 21. DC's on 21, but Miami has the tiebreak on DC due to wins. Cincinnati, adios. Okay, in the West, Sporting Kansas City. Points per game are going to come into play here, and math will be involved, and it will be very weird. Sporting Kansas City is in first on points per game, 1.8. Portland is next on 1.73 after their loss. Seattle is third after their draw, 1.71. Dallas is fourth after their win, 1.62. They jump Minnesota, who is in fifth after their draw, 1.55. LAFC is in sixth on 1.48. Colorado, 1.47. And San Jose gets the last spot at 1.36. The 8 are in the West. You can have movement, I think, really everywhere in the table. I don't think anybody is locked into a spot in the West. So, Tesco, the reason why I'm saying it's not points per game in the East is everybody's played the same number of games. So the points per game don't really, I mean, it's all consistent. So you're going by the points. Okay, gotcha. Cool. I wanted to make sure that made sense. It is points per game, but everybody's played the same. So it's much easier to talk about points. It's much, much easier. All right, so for Atlanta, what does this mean? It means if you win and Montreal or Chicago doesn't win, a draw doesn't hurt you. If they don't win, if one of them don't win, and you win, you're in. Period. That's easy. That's the easy route. If you draw, there is a pathway to getting in, but it's very complicated and convoluted. Chicago would have to lose. Montreal would have to win or draw. Miami would have to lose to Cincinnati, which is not likely. And DC and Montreal play one another. So you don't want to be into that situation. You don't want to be cheering for Cincinnati to score a bunch of goals against Miami. That's not a likely scenario. So you win, you are rooting hard for a loss or a draw from Montreal or Chicago. Montreal plays DC. Chicago plays New York City. Chicago is at home. Montreal goes to DC. So that part's good for you. If DC wins, it doesn't. If as long as you win, it doesn't matter what DC does. You're ahead of them. So that part's cool. So that's where it stands. I mean, it's clear now. Columbus is a team that you are going to play who did not look all that convincing last night. They lost. They beat Philadelphia on a standout goalkeeping performance from Aloy Room. They lost to DC before that. They drew before that. They beat New York City. Then they lost to Cincinnati before that. They lost to Montreal before that. They drew in Dallas, and they lost to Toronto before that. You're looking at a Columbus team that has won 2 of 9. And you have to go into their building, and you have to beat them like, let's see, who has? Like Montreal did on October 7th. Now, that's the only loss in their building. But that's what you have to do. You have to go to Mapfre Stadium, and you have to win in Columbus. And you have to get, just looking at those 2 games, the Chicago one, Chicago is probably going to be a toss-up with NYC. But DC will be favored over Montreal, I think. So you've got to get that result that you would expect, and you've got to win. That's it.
Nothing like math to start off a show, eh?
Well, that part's not math. The math is out west. I don't want to try to lead it into like, oh, this is so crazy to follow.
No,
it's not.
In the East, it's 5 teams, 2 spots.
Yeah, that's
take
the
care of your
bulk.
business, and then
yeah,
you let it happen.
It's simple. That part's easy. The West, I'm not doing the math for you. I'm going to let other people do that.
I actually did while you were breaking down all of the scenarios. I actually did a piece of math.
That's frightening.
San Jose cannot be any higher than 8. If they win, they are at. Well, actually, I take that back. If somebody loses in front of them, then they can. So never mind. I was going to say, if they win, so here's your margin right now. Thank you. If San Jose wins, then they would go to 1.43, which puts them within shouting distance of Colorado. So if Colorado was to lose, it would be 25 divided by 18, which is 1.38. So you could have some flip-flopping when it comes to that. So, yeah, my attempt at math completely failed this morning. What a surprise.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Pretty much, youngin'.
Man.
And to answer your early question about juice boxes, and since we're not to Thanksgiving stuff yet, Columbus is a minus 120 at home this weekend so far.
Okay, well, what's the other side of that match?
Atlanta United is a plus 292 in the composite, and your draw option is a plus 282.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I do.
What about DC and Montreal?
DC is a plus 129. Montreal's a plus 192, and your draw is a plus 250.
Okay, what about Chicago and New York City?
Chicago plus 167, New York City plus 140, and your draw is a plus 267.
Oh, wow. New York City's favored. Okay. It's going to be a wild ride on Sunday. There will be scoreboard watching because you need a result in one of those two games. It will be quite the ride, but you have to win. A draw would back you in if other things happen. I don't expect Cincinnati to beat Miami, so I don't think a draw will get you in. You need to win, but you also need to understand, and I think the supporters need to understand, it is a 90-minute match. Yeah. You're not coming in. It's not like you need to score 5 goals, so you have to open up early. You win 1-0, and New York City wins 1-0, then you're in. That's it. Simple. Done. It's winning, whatever it takes to win the match. That's all that matters in this one. So that's not necessarily an easy question to answer as to how you win the match against a Columbus side. I think you're going to be looking back at the tape from last night. You're going to be looking at some of the ways Orlando hurt Columbus. You're going to be looking back at some of the performances from Columbus, and we'll jump into that for a minute just because this is what matters for Atlanta at this point. So you look back at the match, and let's pull up all the numbers here. So Columbus had a little bit of the possession advantage. Were outshot 13-11. Both teams had 4 shots on target. Columbus passed at 83%. Orlando passed at 85%. So that's about what you would expect. Tackles, interceptions, kind of small. 14 tackles for Columbus, 11 for Columbus in that. Orlando had 10-9, so it wasn't a very aggressive game in that way. You had 16 fouls committed by Columbus. You look at the performances a little bit, like standouts. Harrison Awful with a great goal for Columbus. He's going to be a handful. He did not pick up a yellow card, so he will be available. Luis Diaz did not pick up a yellow card. He will be available. Their top performers were Zelarayan and Jonathan Mensah, their center back. They did start Waylon Francis on the left side. Milton Valenzuela was available but did not play. Abubakar Keita got the start next to Mensah. We've seen Josh Williams in that spot at times. Williams is the veteran. Keita is the young up-and-coming center back. Awful right back's what I would expect. Questions about how you set up the wings. So Luis Diaz got to play here on the right side. You could see Derek Etienne. You could see Yunus Mokhtar. You could even see Emma Boateng, Christian Nemeth if you want to get really crazy. Jossie Zardes as your number 9, Pedro Santos on the left, your midfield trio of Artur, Nagbe, and Zelarayan. I think you are looking at attacking down the right side against their left. That feels like the weak spot to me, and it feels like the strong spot for Atlanta. If it's Waylon Francis, if it's Milton Valenzuela, both like to get forward. Neither are outstanding defenders. And if you get Jurgen Damm and Brooks Lennon running at that side, okay. Pedro Santos, not really known for the defensive side of his game either as a winger. I feel like if you're Atlanta, you've really got to work down the right side. Bernd Dursberger said Nagbe looked tired or not fit yet. Nagbe, let's look back at his recent performances. So, and this is from SofaScore, which is a good resource if you're looking for this. They do the same kind of thing that Who Scored does, where you're pulling stats in to give a rating. It's not a voted rating. Nagbe's been average, according to SofaScore, lately. He has played on November 4th against Orlando. He got a 6.9. That's a little above average. Philadelphia, 6.6, average. DC, before that, on October 28th, 6.7, average. Like between 6.6 and 6.7 is your average rating. Houston, 6.8. So he's been all right. I mean, not blowing you away, but all right. You know, his numbers last night, you want to dig into it a little deeper. He played 69 minutes. He only had 2 incomplete passes out of 39. No chances created. He won 3 of 4 duels on the ground. He picked up 2 fouls. He had 1 interception defensively. Kind of there. The passing was good, but it didn't push the team forward really to make something happen. So it was good. His partner, Artur. So Artur played the full 90. Artur only had 4 incomplete passes out of 58. He didn't create anything. Duels, 7 of 15, so not great. He committed 4 fouls. Didn't pick up a yellow. It's interesting. Defensively, 3 interceptions, 3 tackles, so he was very involved defensively. He will sit a little more. Nagbe will go. Nagbe's got to combine a little bit more going forward with Zelarayan, who was the best of the 3 last night. Zelarayan, you're not asking him to complete passes at the same percentage because he's creating things. Something to keep in mind, because a lot of people will either overblow the pass completion numbers or not look at them in the right way. And this happened with Pitti a lot, too. It's like Pitti would complete passes at 65%. Oh, that's terrible. Look at how many giveaways he has. Well, he created 5 chances. But he gave the ball away 5 times. Well, he created 5 chances. Creating 5 chances is bigger than giving the ball away 5 times. So Zelarayan created 2 chances. He only passed at 15 of 22 in 69 minutes. The 2 things that jump out to me there. On the ball, he's dangerous. Second, he's not getting on the ball a whole lot. 38 touches. That's a key for Atlanta. You keep the ball from Zelarayan, you keep him around 38, 40 touches, you like your chances. He's one who can hurt you. You don't want him on the ball a lot. You like your chances if you have that. Even if he creates a couple chances. He only has the ball that much. That's a good thing. Burns says Artur looked better than Nagbe. I'd agree. Nagbe doesn't. I don't think he's fully fit, first off. But it's also a different kind of system that's different things they're asking him to do. And it depends on everybody else around him. Artur's not a traditional number 6. So Nagbe's got a little bit more defensively to do in Columbus. Zelarayan is the one that is pulling the strings here. He's the one that you're trying to get on the ball more than Nagbe. So, okay. When Nagbe gets onto the ball in those situations in the attacking half, he's got to do something with it. But Zelarayan is the guy. Zelarayan is driving the car here. But Nagbe has more defensively because Artur was more of an 8 last year. He has to be more of a 6 here. They can get pulled out of position because neither one are true 6s. I still think that you want to attack down the right because that's the weak spot. But if that creates a situation where Artur or Nagbe have to come to that side more to help, then you're opening up the middle. That's the knock-on effect, potentially. If you get Columbus pulling out of shape to deal with you on the right side, because I think that's where you can overplay Columbus, that can open up other opportunities in other parts of the field. It's a winnable game. It absolutely is a winnable game. You do have to get some help. I think those things are possible too. But you have to win. It's a winnable game. You look at Columbus over the last 9 games, they're not blowing you away.
You mentioned Zelarayan and the numbers. You keep him to 40 or so. You like your chances. For those that are going to be looking at those numbers on a sheet of paper, what numbers would sit there and cause you concern as that number were to grow during
more touches? There's no complicated thing here. I think at times we try to mystify everything in the soccer world. That's not what we do around here. If he gets more than 40 touches, you're not liking your chances. If he gets 40 touches or less, you're liking your chances.
Okay.
Touches.
I didn't know if that was the magic number. If there was
no, there's not magic numbers. No. It's just the basic stuff here. This isn't a football thing about keeping somebody under a certain number of yards or anything like that. It's if somebody's got the ball less, who's a dangerous player on the ball, you're happy. Simple. 40 touches in 69 minutes for your most dangerous player is low. So you keep them around that. Okay, you're in a good spot. You want Artur to have more of the ball. Artur had 71 touches, for example. Nagbe in 69 minutes, he only had 44 touches. So you're happy with those numbers. Let's look back to the center backs and look at their touches. So Mensah had 70. Keita had 64. You're good with that. You're good with those guys seeing the ball more because you're not finding Zelarayan in dangerous spots. You look at the outside backs who are going to get forward a little bit more. Harrison Offal had 105 touches. That's not great because he's dangerous going forward, but if you have to make a pick, okay, you'd rather have Offal on the ball more than Zelarayan. Francis had 62 touches. You'd definitely rather him have more touches than Zelarayan. Pedro Santos is the other player you got to worry about on the ball. He had 50 touches in 90 minutes. Luis Diaz, the other winger, the side of Offal, he only had 23 touches. You start to look at that stuff to see who is on the ball the most. When your right back is leading you in touches, that tells you two things. One, he's dangerous going forward, and you have to account for it. So George Bello is going to have his hands full with Harrison Offal. Two, they're going to push the right side more than the left. They're trying to get Offal into dangerous spots, so you have to worry about that. But also, when you break, when you transition, that's where you go. You want to go to that side when it's on. Now, I think the right side is where you want to go, which helps you set it up. If you try to build up attacks down the right, you try to build up attacks down the right, you try to build up attacks down the right. When Offal goes and it's on to break down the left and Barco sneaks into that space or John Gallagher sneaks into that space, that's the ball you hit. That's the long ball you hit. You try to build up play down the right, you look for the big switch when Offal is gone and tracking back in transition. Those are two things that should be there for you on Sunday. Those are two things that I think this team does well.
I feel like we should almost have like a film room with you at points.
No. It's I do not want to start that kind of stuff because I watch people try to make more of it than it is at times. No, you don't need a film room. What I look for, and I'm different in all this. I'm not gonna break down a lot of this in ways to try to make it sound like I'm smarter than you, and it's so much more complicated than you, and you can't figure this out, but I can explain it to you. No, I'm going to try to tell you tendencies.
Yeah.
Because I think that's left out of the discussion way too much when you talk about how a team plays. You're looking for tendencies. You're looking for things that they do a lot, which are good or bad. And you're looking for things you can exploit. You want to find patterns of play that you can say, I think Columbus is going to focus on Harrison Offal bringing the ball forward quite a bit. Okay, what does that allow us to do in response? Where are their weak spots? Where have teams had, good chances created against them? I think sometimes we try to create mysteries in soccer, and no, we shouldn't do that. It should be about making it simpler and easy. Columbus is a team that has some tendencies that I think play into what you do well. Let's follow that and look back at the previous match. Let's look back at the Philadelphia match and see if things are staying consistent with what they did. We'll also talk about the lineups. So the midfield stayed the same against Philadelphia. Artur, Nagbe, Zelarayan. Talk about Nagbe looking tired. Well, he played 2 games in a week. He's got another one on Sunday. That's good for Atlanta that they've played that trio a lot. Valenzuela played on the left and didn't play well. Got a yellow card as well. Did not play well against Orlando. Etienne started at right wing. He did play pretty well, so it's a little surprising that he didn't get the opportunity in Orlando. Rest of the lineup was the same. So, okay, let's look at some of the numbers. Zelarayan, how many touches did he have against Philadelphia? 66 in 90 minutes. So touches per 90 up a little bit there. He was a little more influential as well. Nagbe in that game played 90, 65 touches. So those two stayed about the same. Maybe it's increased a little bit. Nagbe passing just like you would expect, 50 out of 55. He didn't create any chances. Didn't win but one duel, 1 of 7. Defensively had an interception, so he really didn't provide a ton there. He had 2 blocked shots and a clearance, so you'll take that. Zelarayan created 4 chances against Philadelphia. More touches, more chances created. That's not good. Artur was the best of the 3 against Philly. He did get a goal. He passed at about the same kind of level. He had 1 incomplete pass out of 48. He had 65 touches. That's what your central midfield had pretty much all together, about 65 touches per guy. Artur defensively, 4 interceptions, 5 tackles. Very involved defensively. Okay, let's look at awful. Was he still the main guy in terms of touches and bringing the ball forward? He wasn't in this one. 69 touches, a little bit more like your midfielders. Very dangerous going forward. He had, let's see. Actually, no, not as dangerous. He didn't have any shots. Defensively, 3 clearances, an interception, a tackle. You're not looking at a whole lot of defense for him. So let's look at the wingers. See, maybe they were a little more involved in this one. Etienne, 35 touches, not so much. Pedro Santos, 57 touches, no chances created. Okay. Not a lot stands out about them from a numbers perspective. And this is what you have to do. So a lot of times when I don't get a chance to watch a match yet, I'll look at the numbers. I'll kind of have an idea of, okay, I'm looking at Artur in this game because he did well. I'm looking at the wingers because they got good ratings. I'm looking at awful because I know he's a guy to focus on. I'm looking at where they gave up chances to. So you're kind of looking at those things going into the game. You almost have some Cliff's Notes going in before you watch it. So that's on my agenda today, is watching Columbus-Philly, watching Columbus-Orlando again in a little more detail, and taking some notes on what they can do to hurt Atlanta, what they do a lot of, and what Atlanta can do to hurt them. So that's your homework if you want to take it for the rest of the day.
And you want to get into the red card in the Orlando-Columbus game, since we're talking Orlando-Columbus?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. Everybody went kind of nuts about this being a horrible, awful, unforgivable call. I didn't think it was watching it live, and I could absolutely be the outlier here. That's fine. Everybody went nuts on it. So
can I just raise my hand while you're looking for information and things?
Yes, raise your hand.
Okay. I looked at it, and I always thought that if you went in studs up, and this was like a 90-degree studs up into the player by Nani, that it didn't matter if it was before the ball got there, as the ball got there, after the ball left that particular space of activity, or next Wednesday, that if it was studs up into the player, that it was either a yellow or a red. That's what I always thought.
That's what a lot of people say. I believe that is what the referee said. That's what I was trying to find, the quote from the referee, because they were asked about it, and you did get a response. The way he went into the tackle is what created the red. There's just no way around that. That's what grabbed the attention of the referees. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. It wasn't just an Orlando, outcry about this. This was everybody against it. Orlando City will appeal it, according to Julia Poe of the Orlando Sentinel. Club source echoes the general mood of the team about that call. It was absurd. I will push back on some of the comments that have been made like that. I don't think it was absurd because of the way it went in. And this was the description from the referees. What was the specific reasoning that the red card to Nani was given? Red card was for serious foul play with a straight leg tackle, contact with studs above the ankle. What changed the call on Nani from a yellow that was initially given to a red? The referee originally thought that the contact was low on the foot and reckless. And then a question about a handball from elsewhere. So referee says, serious foul play, straight leg tackle, studs above the ankles where the contact was made. That's what got it. And I don't know the argument there against what the referee said got the red. That's where we get into this and we want to talk about it and say that's a horrible call. That's what the referee says they saw. That description is a red card. You watch it back, and that happens. Now, I'm trying to find the justification for the outrage. And again, if you guys feel differently, please tweet us. Tell me. I want to know. That's what the referee said. That's a red card description. That happens. you could say that the contact isn't enough, but he goes in with studs.
Mm-hmm.
And the second leg is high. And there is a straight leg. I think it's the first leg, so it's his left leg comes in. I'm going to assume that the argument that Nani would make here is that he got to the ball with his right foot. He knocked it off the attacking player, it appears. The left leg coming through is the straight leg studs on the ankle. Getting the ball doesn't give you diplomatic immunity, first off. I think that's something that is misunderstood. If you get the ball, but you come through with that second leg straight, you open yourself up to a red. If they appeal it, I'll be really curious to see what happens here from the Disco perspective. Everybody is against it. Everybody thinks it was a bad call. I really haven't seen anybody backing the call up. Oscar Pareja said, I want to be bold on this because I reviewed the plays. I think we all make mistakes. It's not an easy job for a referee, but we reviewed it. Nothing happened. It was not a red card. The nothing happened part's untrue. I'm sorry. It's untrue. It's untrue. Something happened. He went in straight leg. He made contact with studs on the ankle. That happened. Dursberger with a good point here. Pavard didn't even get a yellow card against Salzburg for the same foul. Marsh went nuts, manager of Red Bull Salzburg, but that's not called that often in world football. That's the part that I think is where the ire is coming from. This doesn't get called a lot in this situation. Some of it is what creates some of those perceptions. He got the ball, so there's no foul. That's not true. There's nothing in the laws of the game about that. Perception of the way that call is seen and how it's made often is what brings it up a lot. Now, Burned with a really good point, and this absolutely plays into it for a lot of referees and for a lot of people's feelings on this kind of tackle. I think the call depends on the severity of the contact, even though it shouldn't be that way. If the guy doesn't get hurt or almost gets hurt, it's not called. I think also the height of the studs up challenge also gets it. Even if they miss, but if it's high, if it's like around the knees, that's going to get called even if it's not a ton of contact because that looks more reckless. I think people thought this didn't look dangerous because he's on the ground and the feet stay low.
Yeah.
But studs up, straight leg on a player's ankle can create serious injury. That's why you have that in the laws of the game. I don't know if it gets overturned. I will be curious to see how this goes because all of the opinion is that it was a horrible call. All of the opinion is that the call was awful. And it's not just from Orlando. Again, Taylor Twellman tweeted about it. Nico Cantor tweeted about it. Andres Cantor tweeted about it. Everybody tweeted about it and thought it was a horrible call.
I think Stu Holden and Taylor Twellman got into a bit of a back and forth on it.
Stu Holden did push back on it. That's true. He's, I think, the only one.
And I think I got lucky in freeze framing the moment, if you want to call it that.
Okay.
Ball is cleared and it's heading back, screen right, back toward the middle third. Nani's left leg is sliding in like you're sliding into a base. His right is studs up and it is above the ankle bone. I mean, it is a straight up right into the ankle bone moment right there. So for me, that's a red.
Yeah. MLS referee stats on Twitter who studies this stuff really, really closely. At times I feel like is too protective of referees. But MLS Ref Stats said, the point and mode of contact on this Nani challenge is not dissimilar to the one that Deplan was called for versus Minnesota. Pro wanted a red card for the Deplan tackle in that case, but the referee only went yellow. that could play into this a little bit in that it has been a recent conversation about these kinds of challenges. I have no problem with these challenges being reds, but I do want it to be consistent because then people know what to expect. Studs up, straight leg to the ankle can break an ankle. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't require a ton of contact. I mean, if your ankle is planted and you're hitting that way, you can break the ankle, and that's serious injury. You can tear ligaments. There's lots of things that can happen with that kind of challenge. That's why it should be looked at harshly. And that's why it gets back to what Burns said about if there's not an injury there, a lot of people are like, oh, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. I think it needs to be a big deal. We'll see. MLS ref stats, his initial response to it was that's a bad point of contact, but is the force there? Talking about the tackle. That's when it was first being reviewed. The point of contact, where it was and the way it was delivered is the problem. The amount of force behind it does play in, but I think it's secondary. We'll see what happens. We'll see if the appeal is valid and upheld, and if Nani plays on the weekend. It's a big deal for Orlando for sure because you'd love to have Nani. I don't think it's quite as catastrophic as some have made it out to be. I think they're playing Nashville. I think they can be fine, but I'll be curious to see the conversation around this one. I was not outraged when I saw the tackle. I was not outraged that it was a red. I kind of felt like it was a red. Most everybody else did not.
No, I thought it was a red.
Did not. Inexcusable beyond all measure. That referee should be fired. One of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. I'm wondering if maybe some of Nani's reaction to it, where he was crying and devastated and upset and all of that, maybe played into people's opinions of it. Mauricio Pereira, who had a great match for Orlando, said, I think that maybe the referee made a mistake. I told him this on the field, but everybody makes mistakes.
I don't think it was a mistake. I thought it was a red. Like I said, and looking at it, like I said, I looked at it in real time, and I'm like, ooh, that was nasty. And then you look at it and Zapruder the thing, and went through the video review element of it, and it is straight leg above the ankle bone or above the ankle bone, and that left foot is in a precarious position, and the player's already bending on it as the contact's being made. So for me, I'm sorry, that's a red to me.
Yeah, I think so too. So, wait a minute, is this actually happening? I think it might be. Somebody looking at this from the UK says, was it even a foul? Yes.
Yeah.
I was in favor of VAR, but this needs answering. We need full transparency. I want to hear the conversations being had between ref and officials like in rugby. Elite football is becoming a farce. This is the founder of #United, Spencer Owen. It's a foul. It's a red. Like, I mean, it's I don't know. Couple more before we move on. Burns Abby says need to protect the player's bottom line. I completely agree. Burns says Almiron got that call against the defender in one of his first Newcastle games. Defender got him good with the studs on his shin, tore his sock, and he got sent off. They call that in England. You might want to tell Spencer that one. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. But all the outrage has been delivered. I really didn't go along with it, but we'll see what happens. It is being appealed, it sounds like, and we'll see if it gets overturned.
Yeah, and there was another. Since you're going to get into handball at some point in the show, there was a moment in Portland and Colorado that had the same thing inside the box, and I want to get that moment crystallized correctly before we get into that.
Well, let's just lead into what the handball situation is. So, according to Rob Harris of the AP, Gianni Infantino of FIFA, the president, has received a request from UEFA to adjust the handball law again to provide more flexibility for referees and prevent players from being unfairly punished. A letter was sent to Infantino, seen by the Associated Press. Alexander Seferin, the president of UEFA, asked for the November meetings of IFAB, the game's lawmakers, to consider allowing referees to determine again whether a player handled intentionally or not. They're trying to make it black and white. They're taking the ability for the referee to judge the situation out. That was what a lot of people wanted. Now I think you're realizing that doesn't work. Seferin's intervention came after a spate of penalties being awarded because balls have even unwittingly hit outstretched or raised arms. Seferin quoted here saying, "The attempt to strictly define the cases where handling the ball is an offense has resulted in many unfair decisions which have been met with growing frustration and discomfort by the football community." Referees have to have the ability to judge intent. They have to. There's just no way this rule works without the intent being part of it. When you take that out, you get goofy situations like a ball deflecting up into somebody's arm, somebody shooting from 2 feet away right into somebody's arm, and they're in a running motion, so their arm is slightly away from their body, and a handball. You need to be able to judge intent. Referees have to do that. Are they going to judge incorrectly sometimes? In our opinion, sure. But give them the ability to call it as they see it as opposed to trying to meet some black and white standard that I don't think is fair. What happened in the Colorado match? Because I did not see that one live.
15th minute late. Colorado is trying to put a shot on net inside the area. Ball is poked. Bill Tuiloma is at full extension. It goes off of his right instep up into his right arm as he's extending his body. Initially, it was called a penalty, but after video review, it was waved off as not a handball.
Okay. I'm judging from the way you described it that you thought it was a handball.
Well, I thought that the rule was that if it comes off of a body part and then goes into the hand as part of a natural action, that it wasn't.
I think that it's not supposed to. I was trying to judge from the way you said it. I thought you were saying that they got it wrong.
No, I'm saying that it was after video review they got it right.
Okay.
Initially, it was referred to as a penalty. Went to VAR, it was reversed as not a handball.
No, I get that, but you agree with the decision.
I agree with the eventual decision of not a handball.
The decision that stood on the field, yes. The decision. Yes. That's what happened. You agree with the way it was handled.
Yes.
Okay. They're trying to make that part of this. I've seen at times where it hasn't been ruled in that way, where if it's deflected up into somebody's arm that is extended, that's not a handball. That's good that you're starting to get some consistency. You need more, but Burns says it. I've been saying it for a long time. I think a lot of us have been saying it for a long time. You have to be able to judge intent.
Yeah.
You have to. It's just crazy to not be able to do that. And you get situations that you're trying to make it black and white, and it's just not. I mean, judging if a player's arms are by their sides, or is it natural? Is it unnatural? Is it part of the silhouette? That's a hard judgment, but you have that in there. So let them judge intent. I mean, if their arm is not by their side, but they're running, and their arm in a running motion, which you can look at on VAR, say they're running and their arm flails out a little bit when they get bumped, and their arm comes out and the ball hits it. I mean, are you going to rule that against them because they got bumped and their arm went out because they got hit and that's a handball? It shouldn't be, especially if it's from 2 feet away and it's like kicked into their hand. That shouldn't be a handball. But by the black and white nature of it, that would be a handball, and that's not right. So they need to get this right. I think we're going to see more of this for a little while because VAR has given us the ability to review things in a more detailed way than they've ever been. So I think in the past where IFAB would meet, maybe make a rule change every few years, you're going to see some significant changes every year for a little while. Because now you've got the ability to actually see, is that right, is that wrong? Or you've got the ability in this handball situation to really see where the footballing community is on these things. and you can adjust, because the old thing about the spirit of the laws of the game, well, now you can throw the spirit to the side a little bit because you're seeing black and white on things that you've never been able to see in this amount of detail before. And now you've included that in the decision-making process, with VAR. So you got to make the rules fit. And if that means you've got to try to incorporate that previous spirit of the laws of the game that would inform the way the game was called, if you've got to incorporate that more in the written laws of the game to match up with where things stand with VAR and having replay, then you need to do that.
Yeah.
You need to do that with the offside law. You need to do that with the handball law. The handball law, you have to give judgment back to the referees. The offside law, you need to figure out if it needs to be redefined, because that old tie goes to the attacking player kind of mentality. If now that doesn't really exist because there's no ties, you can see it down to detail, or have a much better judgment than the naked eye with the AR on the field. You need to make a decision. Do you need to broaden the offside law a little bit? Do you need to give the attacker more space to be onside? I don't know. That's down to IFAB. That's down to these decision makers. But these are two very important things that IFAB, if they're meeting this month, they've got a lot on the agenda to discuss.
Yeah, Colorado fans last night were looking at that particular incident early on that would have given them an early 1-0 lead, and there was rabble and outrage, and I'm looking at it. It's like, well, what else is Bill Tuiloma's body supposed to do as he's trying to – he's literally like 4 feet away when the ball is impacted toward him, and he's kick-saving, and it's like, what else is he supposed to do?
I didn't have a massive issue with the idea in the past of natural body position and unnatural body position and making yourself bigger. And I mean, that makes sense. Like, it makes sense to me as somebody who's played and coached and been on the field, that you can tell that from a referee, especially when you have replay involved. You can tell if somebody is in a natural body position of running or falling down or, being bumped and adjusting their balance or whatever, versus somebody who is trying to stretch their arms out to block something.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference. That's referees put in a lot of time to train. You can show examples. Like, you can teach that. That's better than this situation where you're trying to make it black and white and it just doesn't work. Burns says Dyer's handball with his back turned against Newcastle did it for me, and I'm 100% with you. That was the one that drove me nuts. That was so incredibly stupid, and I don't even like Spurs. That's from Burn. I completely agree. That was the one in that weekend where you had a few situations and people were trying to say, well, this one. It's like, that was the one that's like, nothing's like this. This is ridiculous. Like, there's nothing he can do. There was no intent. There's no malicious intent there. There's nothing he can do differently, and you're giving a gift of a handball. It's horrible. It's just horrible. I mean, when it's so bad that Jose Mourinho won't go nuts about it,
yeah,
that tells you all you need to know. Like, there's no point in complaining about it because it's so bad. That was the one that, yeah, it has to be changed. It has to be changed, and they have to get this right. Give the referee and the VAR the ability to judge intent. They have to do that. Ricky with a point on the Twitch pitch. Never saw a formal announcement, which is true. I mean, they're announcing games with less than 24 hours right now, so everything's madness. Philadelphia clinched a spot in the CONCACAF Champions League. They are giving the U.S. Open Cup CCL spot to the winner of the Western Conference. Yeah, I'm looking. Okay, so now MLS has written this on their website that posted at 2:01. That was about 4 or 5 hours after the game. Philadelphia going to CCL for the first time. Crew are eliminated from contention of the Supporters' Shield. Toronto is the only other team that could win the Supporters' Shield. Toronto can't qualify by winning the Supporters' Shield for the CONCACAF Champions League because they are Canadian. So Philadelphia gets the Supporters' Shield spot. Okay, got that. Makes sense. Reading from MLS. In a normal year, 3 of the 16 CCL berths go to the winners of the Supporters' Shield, MLS Cup, and Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, with the last going to the regular season winner of the conference opposite the Supporters' Shield. This year, The Portland Timbers were awarded one of those berths thanks to their victory at the MLS's back tournament in Orlando. If Toronto win the Shield, the spot would be awarded to Philadelphia, meaning Philadelphia would get the berth no matter how the Shield race pans out. Now, Ricky says they're giving the U.S. Open Cup spot to the winner of the Western Conference. I don't think they're necessarily saying that. I don't really know what they're saying, to be perfectly honest. I understand the Supporters' Shield part of it. Because if Toronto wins the Shield, Philadelphia would be the best American team. They would get the Supporters' Shield spot.
Right.
Okay, I got that. And I know that Portland's got a spot, but it was never really defined which spot they got. Okay. So you've got the Supporters' Shield. You've got MLS Cup, which will get a spot, so we put that one to the side. You've got the regular season winner of the conference opposite the Shield winner, which is what most of us expected to go to the MLS's back tournament winner. And you've got the Open Cup spot, which we didn't know what they would do with, because that is the one way that non-MLS American teams could play their way into the CONCACAF Champions League. Now, it's incredibly rare. The last time a non-MLS team won the Open Cup was 99 with the Rochester Rhinos. I think they were raging at that point still. But that's there. That's there. So it's craziness. Jason Nix is screaming, "We are reigning U.S. Open Cup champs. Give us our spot." It's true.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen that way. So I don't know exactly what they're doing. So we know that Philadelphia has the Supporters' Shield spot. We know the MLS Cup winner, if it is American, will get that spot.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not American, I'm guessing it will go to the runner-up. If it is two Canadian teams in the MLS Cup final, no, it can't be. So, yes, because Vancouver's out. So that can't happen. So if it is Toronto or Montreal who win MLS Cup, the Western Conference team in MLS Cup final would get that spot, I'm assuming. I guess they are putting the Open Cup spot to Portland. But does the winner of the other conference get a spot? It's not really defined. I'm going to read it one more time and tell me if I'm getting this, if I'm making this obtuse.
I don't think you are.
In a normal year, 3 of the 16 CCL berths go to the winners of the Supporters' Shield, MLS Cup, and the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, with the last going to the regular season winner of the conference opposite the Shield winner. This year, the Portland Timbers were awarded one of those berths thanks to their victory at the MLS's back tournament in Orlando. If Toronto win the Shield, the spot would be awarded to the Union, meaning Philadelphia would get the berth no matter how the Shield race pans out. So we know Philly and Portland are in. We know the MLS Cup winner is in, but we don't really know what the other one is going to be.
Yes.
I mean, Philadelphia's in for Supporters' Shield. That one's clear. We know what spot they're getting. We know the MLS Cup spot they're getting. We don't know what spot Portland is getting, which affects what the other spot is.
Right.
That's the part we don't know. And if it was announced, I could have missed it. 2020 has been weird. That's the 4 spots, Ricky. This is what's complicated. So Ricky says all the drama about the U.S. Open Cup spot was after the tournament was canceled in August, so it can't be Portland. They've left it so wide open that I guess they could put it that way if they wanted to. Yeah. That would be the easiest solution. You couldn't announce that during the MLS's back tournament because the Open Cup hadn't been canceled yet. So I understand that part. If they have to retroactively put it that way, I get it. I don't have a problem with it. But it does factor into Decision Day, because if the Western Conference regular season winner is up for grabs for Champions League, then it just adds to the conversation. I mean, they want to get the number 1 seed no matter what, but it's just that. Okay, so Johannes is sending us an article that might help, and this is back from the MLS's back tournament, talking about how let's see. So, all right, CCL burst for U.S.-based clubs. 2020 MLS Cup champion, 2020 MLS Supporter Shield winner. Yes. Philadelphia is the Supporter Shield winner. U.S. Open Cup berth replacement. Now, this is what it said at that time. This was in June. A third CCL spot is usually awarded to the winner of the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. However, it was announced that the 2020 U.S. Open Cup had been canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. U.S. Soccer has confirmed that the 2021 CONCACAF Champions League berth that would normally be assigned to the winner of the Open Cup tournament will be determined in the near future. Now, okay, got it. So they did say back in September. So this is correct. Sorry, this was in September. Thank you, Johannes, for clarifying this. Portland won a spot. This is weird because this was in mid-September, so this did fly under the radar. This was primarily also about the Canadian teams getting into CCL as well. So in the paragraph about Portland winning MLS is back. Timbers defeated Orlando City in the MLS is Back tournament final on August 11th to become the first team to secure its ticket to next year's edition of the Champions League. That berth awarded to the winner of the MLS is Back tournament replaced the spot that was awarded in years past to the MLS regular season points leader in the conference opposite the MLS Supporter Shield winner. I thought that was what it would be. I don't know if that was 100% defined at the time of the MLS is Back tournament. It is in black and white here on September 13th from Ari Lilienwall, who wrote this about the Canadian side of it. So then that would mean where things stand now is Philadelphia's in as the Supporter Shield winner. The MLS Cup winner will get a spot. Portland is in as what would normally be the best regular season of the other conference from the Supporter Shield winner. And we don't know how the Open Cup spot's going to be determined.
Okay.
So that's where it stands if we're connecting those dots. Now, this was written in September. This, I don't think, was decreed. But
I don't remember a decree.
2020 is crazy, y'all. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. So that's what we know at this point. So the Western Conference regular season winner doesn't get a spot. Portland is in that spot, essentially. Portland might win that spot, which would then make everything make sense in a lot of different ways. But the Open Cup spot is still up for determination. And that's the one that, well, what do you do? So I don't know. Stay tuned. We will have to wait.
Previous Open Cup champion.
Sure, why not? They're the holders of the tournament. Might as well. Trophy's still in Atlanta, so they get the spot. Guess that's your golden ticket. It sounds good to me. Let's do it. Okay, it's booked. We will make a decree. Since everybody's making decrees these days, we will make a decree and say that is what happens. I don't think our claims are going to have anything to do with it. Jason Nick says, I think they're saying they will award that U.S. Open Cup spot to the Western Conference winners. We've gone in a circle. They're not saying that in this article. They're not saying anything in this article from MLS Soccer staff at 2:01 this morning outside of Philadelphia earning a spot. They say in the normal year how it would go.
Yes.
They're not saying where things fall. They didn't even say where the Portland spot came from specifically in this article this morning. So
Rich Ransom, Union going to CCL. We're going to Central America with 2 exclamation points. #Dupe on tour.
Man, I can't tell you how much fun it is in CCL. I love the CCL games. Love these matchups. Love the draw. Love finding out who you're going to play. Love studying about these teams. It is a lot of fun. So I'm happy for Philadelphia. I still think they've been the best team all season. I don't know if they win the MLS Cup because of the Blake injury and just everything crazy happening all across the board. But I do think they've been the best team, and I do think they deserve this spot, and it's very cool that Philadelphia gets it. Okay. Since we're on the topic of CONCACAF, I believe we have some updates that need to be hit right now.
Okay.
Mini Conca 5 con John Nelson.
2 matches last night instead of 3, and I think this is probably the reason why, if you were looking on FS2, you weren't getting CONCACAF League stuff. Instead, you were getting the Copa de Brazil and Copa MX. So Alajuelense, no problems in the rescheduled match with Cibao winning 3-0. They were a minus 909, our friends from Costa Rica, heading into this match. So 3-0. And your late game, Alianza Motagua. A match like this, if you could find a way to watch it, this is what makes CONCACAF League fun. Seeing these 2 heavyweights down there in Central America go at it, and Motagua ends up winning 2-1 in penalties. It was a plus 210 for your draw option there. So Motagua moves on in league play. Alajuelense moves on in league play. And your next matches are actually today. Once again, in theory, hopefully, you have a triple header. 6, 8:15, 10:30. Waterhouse from Jamaica against Arcahaye of Haiti. Waterhouse, a big favorite, almost a minus 300. Your 8:15 match, Saprissa, our friends from Costa Rica, going up against Municipal from Guatemala. Once again, Saprissa, big favorite, a minus 280. And Olympia and Managua FC out of Nicaragua. Here's your fun number of the day. Go ahead and give me a guess about Managua on the plus side, sir. Having no reference point at all in this matchup, go ahead and give me a number.
It's at Olympia, right?
Check.
Olympia's really good. They're a powerhouse. Managua, not so much. Plus 2,200.
You're half right. Plus 1120 for Managua. Olympia at home in Honduras, a minus 715 and plus 624 in the composite for your draw. And we'll see if these are on FS2. If they are anywhere here in North America or here in the SDH footprint, they'll be on FS2 tonight.
All right.
Dig it. Thank you for the Conca update. Always good.
Right on.
Talked about things being crazy in MLS and Blake's injury and all these things going on. Rumor, Alan Pulido injured in training yesterday for Sporting Kansas City. He was not part of the Mexican national team call-up list. And the rumor is that he will be out for 3 to 4 weeks, which would put him out for the beginning of the postseason. Leon Lacanda is a reporter for ESPN Mexico, says that he is injured. MCL injury in his left knee picked up in training. This has not been confirmed yet by Sporting Kansas City. The last update I have is from the Blue Testament, the SB Nation website covering Sporting at 9:09 our time. That would be a problem. I mean, he's going to miss this weekend. They still have the opportunity to be the top seed in the Western Conference, which we know now will not get them into the CONCACAF Champions League. That spot is Portland. We have no idea how the Open Cup one's going to go. We'll see. But that would also put him out for... if it's 4 weeks, that would put him out for the first playoff match, maybe the second. And then, depending on fitness, maybe more than that. That's a problem for Sporting. That is not a good situation. We'll keep you posted with that one. But you're getting a lot of weird injuries like that at this point, where a lot of teams have big question marks going into the postseason. We'll see how it gets handled. What else is on the agenda for you this morning after you thank somebody?
Well, we'll get into that. I'll let you know. You want me to thank somebody first and then tell you my agenda?
Well, I was going to let you tease your agenda, but if you want to thank somebody, you can be thankful.
Okay, I'll be thankful. So we'll thank folks. And I just checked, by the way, the CONCACAF League Action triple header is all on FS2 starting at 6 o'clock.
There you go.
If you're looking for a wrongful death and serious injury matter conversation, there's one place that you can do it. Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here and the SDH network. A couple different ways that you can have said conversation. You can do it over the phone, 404-377-9191, and get a free consultation over that landline or your cell. What you can also do is shoot Steve at Steve Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, and email. Hit him up directly. I think that's what the kids do these days. They hit him up, steve@aa-legal.com. Or what you can do is go to their website, the website, aa-legal.com. Large device or small, hit the enter key, hit the return key, hit the advance key, hit the arrow key, whatever one moves the screen forward to give you the home screen for Apolinski & Associates LLC. And a pop-up window pops up because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up. Otherwise, you'd have to call them something different. 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison, for reminding us of that. That is what a lap is of this here orb around the sun. I don't know if Steve is the guy who's answering the pop-up window questions. Might be nice to find out. But you can get questions answered in that pop-up window 24/7 all year long. A couple different ways that you can do it. If you've got questions for wrongful death and serious injury matters, over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama for wrongful death and serious injury matters, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine, being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia for wrongful death and serious injury matters. The one place to go, Apolinski & Associates LLC. The website is aa-legal.com.
You got a little creative with that one.
I did. Because once again, I think the idea of checking my guide and figuring out if the CONCACAF League triple header was on FS2, that got me kind of in a creative mood because I was trying to do things quickly.
You got excited about CONCACAF, so you brought that creativity.
I know. It's like I said, honestly, and it started with Atlanta United getting into the CONCACAF Champions League.
But they haven't.
But no, when they did in the past to be embracing all of the hemispheric competitions and getting to watch it and going to go see it in person. And now Rich Ransom's getting to go see it, hopefully in person as well when they go and they're a part of the new CCL draw. So it's just, like I said, I'm the guy that watched that 18-frame, 45-minute penalty kick situation that we had a couple weeks ago. It was tremendous. It was great television. It was maddening and nerve-wracking and 18 frames and penalties and keepers kicking on keepers. CONCACAF is just, it's a blast, and I'm glad that Rich gets the opportunity to sample it.
CONCACAF is wonderful. We need a group stage in CONCACAF again because of all the fun. It needs to happen. Sean Vergara, no, there is a chance that Atlanta gets into the postseason. I am leaving all of the CONCACAF stuff off to the side. Don't even try to start that one going. Jason Nix is asking, since Sean Vergara is in Las Vegas, for the odds at the Bellagio for Atlanta getting into the postseason.
Ooh.
We'll come back to all of the MLS stuff. I've got 3 bits of drama from Europe, and they're all loaded with drama. The question of the day about this weekend is this must-win for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer against Everton on Saturday. If he loses, does Manchester United pull the plug during the international break? They have made moves early before. It's not something they typically do, but they have done it. The earliest they have sacked a manager since World War II was Ron Atkinson, who departed November 6th, 1986.
Oh, wow.
Okay, where things stand with that. Samuel Luckhurst of the Manchester Evening News reports, exclusive. Manchester United have approached Mauricio Pochettino with a view to him replacing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as the club's next manager. The Evening News understands United have made contact with Pochettino's representatives. They reported last December that Pochettino wanted to take over as Manchester United manager. His stance is believed to have not changed. Insiders say the United hierarchy were privately backing Ole prior to the Wednesday night loss in Istanbul against Başakşehir and are reluctant to part company so early in the season. But, and you can't avoid this, if they lose to Everton, they could end up 17th in the table. United have lost 3 of their 6 league games already. They have not lost 4 of their first 7 since 1989-90. The trip to Everton is the last game before the break. We do see sometimes some early sackings happen in that international window. That could be it. Going back to what Pochettino said on Monday Night Football on Sky this week, I am always ready to go again and be involved in the game. It's not stress when you are working. It's not stress going into the training ground to prepare the match and to compete. I hope to go back soon so we can start again to work. I'm looking forward to being back in the game. I love this game, but it's difficult. We are inside and working on doing things. That's the reality. They don't have to pay Spurs anything either because the deadline for that passed in May, so there's no fee to Tottenham because he's still under contract. All of that stuff is set up for this now. So, Ole, I do think it's must win, and it still might not be enough, but I think it is must win. If they don't win, you have to make the move. There's just no way around it at this point. You have to make the move. However, this is also part of the conversation, and I'm just going to read what Norwegian media member and retired footballer Jan Age Fjortoft had to say on Twitter 46 minutes ago. Just replaying probably something that happened behind the scenes. And, of course, there could be some dramatic license taking with it. I want Sancho. I will get him for you. I want Sancho. I will get him for you. I want Sancho to improve the team. I will get him for you. Why didn't I get Sancho? You are fired because you didn't improve the team.
Yeah.
I mean, Ole is handling it differently than Jose Mourinho did when this started to go down for him. He's handling it differently than Louis van Gaal did when this started to happen for him. David Moyes was a little bit different conversation because it was so quick after Sir Alex Ferguson. I still think they pulled the plug on him too early, and it started them cascading into this nonsense. Whoever is there isn't guaranteed to get the players they need to be successful. This is not news. Pochettino being there, can he make the group better? Potentially, yeah. I think he's an excellent manager. I think he can get more out of the group than Solskjaer has at times. Sometimes that change of personality could do that. Could absolutely fix it and make it better. I don't think they are a top 4 team on talent. I think others have passed them. I don't know if they will make the moves to be a top 4 team on talent. So if Pochettino takes it, and I know he said he wants it. I mean, that part has been out there for a while. I don't think that's changed because of what Manchester United is, and maybe more importantly, was. I think Ole, if they fall to 17th in the league, you got to make the move.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, fair or unfair, I think you have to make the move. You can't risk anything like that. So I understand that. I think Ole has gotten a raw deal from what he has gotten from the front office, but the results haven't been what they need to be, even with the success in Champions League before the loss to Başakşehir, which kind of washes some of that away. And now you have the league form, which is bad. Even a win might not be enough against Everton to keep it, because this is the time to do it. If you're going to do it, this is the time to do it. During the international break, you get 2 weeks to prepare. Yes, you're not going to have all your players because some of them will be away on international duty, but you can prepare and come in and make the move. I think it happens. I do. I think Ole's done the best he can. I think he's also been different this year after the disappointment of not getting what he wanted in the window. And I think some of the life has gone out of him. So if that's the case, you got to make the move. You got to make the move. I think they make it. I think they make it for sure if there's a loss. There's no question. I think they might make it if there's a win. And at this point, maybe they should, just because this has turned into a distraction for Manchester United. All of this has turned into it now. So you got to make the move. I think it happens, but I also don't know if they can bounce back from, and that's what's hard about the schedule right now, because you can go into a tailspin really easily and not pull yourself out. You're playing game on the weekend, game midweek, game on the weekend, game midweek, game on the weekend, game midweek. You start to get just ground down into a powder. And when you get a bad result in the league and then a bad result in Turkey, and then you have to come back and play again against Everton, who did not play in the midweek, I mean, you are being fed to the lions right now. I don't think they get the result they need. I don't think they get a win, and I think it costs Ole his job. Again, fairly or unfairly, I think that's what's going to happen here, and we see what happens next. But, it's not on Ole when his defense looks like they've forgotten how to play the sport.
Yeah.
On the first goal from Başakşehir. I mean, I'm not putting that on Ole.
No.
And there's been a lot of things that I'm not putting on Ole, but when the results are what they are, you got to make a move. And when you have Pochettino sitting out there, that changes the perception. If he wasn't out there, if Allegri wasn't sitting out there, who reportedly they've had conversations with in the past, if you don't have managers like that out there, Ole gets more time. But right now, Pochettino's looming over everything in England. I think they're going to make the move.
All right, so here's your line right now. Juice boxes for the weekend. Everton at home a plus 195. Manchester United a plus 145. Your draw is a plus 250.
I'd be taking Everton. They didn't play midweek. It looks like they could get Hamas back for this. I would take Everton. Carlo Ancelotti's hoping that Hamas will be back for this. He missed the last week's 2-1 loss to Newcastle. They have lost 2 in a row, so they've got a little bit of pressure on them. But, yeah, I think Everton is the favorite coming into this.
And your trivia question, well, actually, there were 2 trivia questions from yesterday involving Başakşehir. Demba Ba is actually 5 years older than the club itself.
Okay. How much older is Skirtle than the club?
That's a good question.
I think Skirtle's older than Demba Ba, right? Or is he?
Checking, because the club itself is 30 years old.
Skirtle's 35, so...
Yeah, so Demba Ba and Martin Skirtle are both 35.
Yeah, they got a lot of old folks in that team.
And then the second piece of trivia from yesterday involving Başakşehir, I want to say their original owners were the municipal water company in Istanbul when it was created 30 years ago.
Sure. So, like, Georgia Power is going to start a team now? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Fair enough. Byrne says if they fire Ole, Chelsea will be the only big club with a bad manager. Ooh, harsh. Harsh on 2 fronts.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue because I've been mean to Frank Lampard. I'm going to continue with praising Frank Lampard. 3-0 win over Rennes. Rennes had 10 men. 2 first-half penalties from Timo Werner. Tap-in from Tammy Abraham. But 5 is your magic number today. All competitions, Chelsea have kept 5 consecutive clean sheets for the first time since October of 2010.
It's amazing what happens when you don't have Kepa in net.
It happens. The last time they started a Champions League campaign with 3 straight clean sheets was in 2009. Very impressive. They have a goalkeeper who is competent. That helps. Frank Lampard has to get some credit here. So I am going to say, Bernd, you are being mean this morning.
Mean, Bernd.
Being mean to Frank Lampard. You're being mean to Ole, but Ole has kind of brought some of that on himself, and Ed Woodward has piled the rest of it on top of him and forgot his number. I mean, it's just gotten really bad. Jason Nix, that was some of the worst defending I've ever seen on that first goal by Manchester United yesterday. Dude was 6 to 8 yards inside his own half, 10 yards from the closest Man U defender. 100,000,000%. People are laughing about David Moyes' name coming up. Yes, that it usually gets a good laugh. That is true.
Yes.
Okay, Burned. I don't see Pogba playing for Pochettino for too long. I would agree. You've already started to hear Juventus say things like, oh, yeah, Paul's really good. We like him. He's nice. He did good things for us. But he's not with us. But he's really nice. We like him. Just get that deal done. That's been another thing that's been hanging around Ole's neck for so long is the Paul Pogba, will he or won't he? Is he leaving? Does he want to be here?
Albatross.
Is he playing hard? Brah, that's just nonsense. I think Ole is gone. So,
yeah.
And I think Pochettino is hired before the league resumes. So that's one piece of the European drama. Let's go to Italy for drama number 2. Lazio. So Simone Inzaghi said that his side only had 13 players available yesterday in their match 1-1 draw. We did get one of the performances correct with the travel. Actually, 3 of the teams that had long distances to travel didn't win. Manchester United, I thought, would win. They didn't. We did think a draw would happen with Lokomotiv Moscow. We did think a draw would happen with Lazio and Zenit. Those did. Inzaghi says he only had 13 players available. They did have more than that on the team sheet. 22 were listed. At least half a dozen were from the youth team, so he wasn't even considering playing them. He said, it's very satisfying to have a group like this, and it's difficult to ask for more. We played the last 2 Champions League away games with 13 players. This morning, Luis Felipe was also having trouble walking, but we are going beyond all expectations. It's frustrating to be in these conditions. It's very difficult, and we hope to get some players back. Okay. Now, why did they only have 13 players available? Well, Serie A has some questions about that. The Italian Federation has some questions about that. Lazio has some questions about that. UEFA has some questions about that. This is going to get weird. Lazio said before they left Italy, several members of the squad had tested positive for COVID. They didn't name them. Inzaghi said that goalkeeper Thomas Strakosha, midfielder Lucas Leiva, and leading scorer Ciro Immobile were among those who stayed behind. There's been some confusion over these tests because Immobile missed the game against Brugge, missed the game against Zenit in Champions League, but played in the Serie A match in Torino in between the two. The Italian Federation on Tuesday opened an investigation into Lazio over potential violations of COVID health protocols when carrying out testing. It inspected the Lazio Sports Center, seized the results of swab tests on players. They're seizing results of swab tests. This is where things stand in Italy right now. Before the Wednesday match, Lazio sporting director Igletare said that the club had acted in good faith, collaborated fully with the Italian Federation, suggested there was a difference between Serie A testing and the test done by UEFA. He said to Sky Sport Italia, there's something that's not right. In my opinion, we need uniformity. Only in this way can we move forward. Otherwise, we will be here discussing this every week. So now there's talk that Lazio might file grievances or lawsuits or whatever against UEFA based off their testing. There's also talk in Italy that the Italian Federation might file grievances and paperwork against Lazio, and if they're found breaching COVID-19 regulations for the league, the penalties go all the way up to being expelled from the league. Which will not happen, I don't think, but that's where things stand in Italy. So I don't remember, and I don't think it was reported as such, that Immobile was COVID-19 positive last round against Brugge.
Yeah.
I don't think it was actually reported specifically that he was COVID-19 positive here, but he didn't travel to Zenit. But he did play in the league match in between, which is where people are saying, wait a minute, you tested positive? Didn't? We don't know the results of the tests, I don't think. Jason Nix is throwing the red card. Kefsey says, this may shock everyone, but I don't trust Lazio. Yeah. This is going to get really weird. Really, really weird. I don't know where this goes. I really don't. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be very, very messy. I just don't see a way around it. Speaking of messy, let's go to Barcelona.
Attaboy.
That was pretty good. I was really proud of that one. That came to mind as I said it. So, Lionel Messi is scoring on penalties like crazy. He's not scoring from the run of play. Ronald Koeman is not happy with his team. They did win 2-1 over Dynamo Kiev, who might have had 13 players out, might have had 6, might have had 9. It's who knows? The reporting has been all over the map, but doesn't matter. It was a 2-1 win. Ronald Koeman not happy. I'm concerned about our performance in attack. The problem against Dynamo Kiev was our performance without the ball. The problem exists. Sometimes you cannot press, and when you do, you leave spaces. We have to talk about this and analyze it as a team because the whole team has to improve. The game without possession has to improve. Now, he did not speak specifically about any players, but when you look at some of the substitution patterns here lately, Ousmane Dembele, Lenglet, Busquets, all withdrawn at halftime in the draw against Alaves. Griezmann has been substituted off in the opening hour 3 times against Celta Vigo, Sevilla, and Dinamo Kiev. Pedri and Dembele were those to be sacrificed early in the loss at Getafe. So he's making early subs, big subs, and that is usually a sign that he is not happy with the way performances are being carried out on the field. So now you've got the drama about Ronald Koeman and what he thinks of his players. You've got the drama off the field with reportedly deadlines being pushed back for the players to agree to salary cuts to balance the books. There's talk that if these cuts are not agreed to, that players could be just dropped, just released. I don't know about that one at all. That has been floated. I don't buy it. But if you are facing bankruptcy in the face or whatever form of bankruptcy it's going to be in Spain and players won't agree to cuts, yeah, you might not have another option. I don't know if that means you can cut them and then they can sue you for getting paid and then you have to take it to the courts, but that buys you time. I don't know. But Barcelona, between Lazio's testing stuff, Barcelona's financial stuff, and Manchester United's always ongoing boardroom and managerial drama, I mean, Europe is just a bounty of fun right now.
Yes. And last time I checked, you could still catch up with all of those updates Monday nights at 7 on Soccer Over There.
Well, you're on the show, so I don't think you have to check on that. You would know because you've been there.
Yes, I've been there occasionally.
Maybe the indecision explains a lot of your performances on the show. It's late in the day, so the Mountain Dew kick has already been gone by that point, and it's just it gets into craziness.
Yes, that is accurate.
You don't know you're there anymore.
No, it's like, what? I'm where?
Oh, you want one more bit of bonus drama from Europe?
Oh, please.
Well, Milan plays Lille today in the Europa League, which is pretty cool. It'll be the first time that Timothy Weah will play in Milan at the stadium where his father was a legend for Milan. So that's pretty cool. The part that's a little weird is...
How weird is it?
It's 117 million euro weird. The Elliott Fund, which owns Milan, and Nick Alifi's told us much about the Elliott Fund, all of these situations. The Elliott Fund is owed 117 million euro by Lille patron Gerard Lopez. The Elliott Fund helped Lille, who were in a crisis a couple of years ago, had a financial debt of 249 million euro. The Elliott Fund saved the French club. Paul Singer decided to give Lopez a loan of 117 million for the capital increase, a sum that should be repaid by August of 21. So you've got one club playing another one, and the patron of the one club owes the owner of the other club 117 million euro. Is that a good situation to be in?
I believe that'd be a no.
If things get weird in this match, what's going to get talked about? I mean, they got till August of 21 to pay it back. I mean, but, I mean, is this Matt Damon going back in with the money to try to win more of it in rounders? I mean, is that what we're talking about here?
I believe so.
Kind of. I mean, kind of. There's no hint of anything improper. There's no hint of anything that could lead to impropriety. If you see a dodgy goal given up by Lille in this game, that is what will be talked about. There's no way around it. That will get lots of tabloid talk. Lots of it. Boy. Let's see. Is this news or is this... yeah, it looks like it is news. I'm gonna take a gamble and go with the news one on this one. Martin Ziegler, who is with the Times in London, new Premier League to abandon unpopular pay-per-view charges for matches from next week, at least until the end of 2020, and likely for good. This weekend's charges for pay-per-view matches will apply. Some subscriptions have already been sold. But they are going to ditch the pay-per-view fee. It can be revealed by the Times and Martin Ziegler. That is good.
Yes.
These are good things. So good news there. Cuatro in Spain is reporting that Lionel Messi has not forgotten, I don't think he's forgotten anything, his idea of leaving Barcelona in June. He wants a winning project in order to continue at the club. I don't think he's going to have a winning project because they got to balance the books. Manchester City wants to close him in the coming weeks to sign in January on a pre-contract. Just, to go alongside of everything. But when you talk about balancing the books, that's a big step in balancing the books if you're able to make a deal in January and move Lionel Messi somewhere else. Just saying, it's like a third of what you need to balance.
Yeah.
Whew. Man, it's been a busy morning.
Yeah. Well, we also have juice boxes for your Europa League today.
Okay, well, let's get into Europa League. There's a whole lot of Europa League games. You don't have the Golasso show for Europa League, which is a little disappointing. I would like to see it. Give them time. That has been getting so much better every time out, and I really think they've hit on the right pairing right now with Gustavo Poyet and Nico Cantor. That's a fun one. I like it. So maybe we'll find an understudy for Nico and get them on Europa League. But you do have it in Spanish. Zona Football, correct?
Yes. Zona Football. Alejandro Berry is in the Dodeca box or whatever we call the 12s.
Yes. So same concept. You've got a whole bunch of games at 12:55. We are not going to go through all of them, but I'll call a few out to get some numbers from you, John. Benfica hosting Rangers.
Benfica's a plus 119 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Rangers is a plus 243 on the road. Your draw is basically the same number.
Benfica just lost to Boa Vista in league. Rangers have been pretty good. Am I really going to believe in Steven Gerrard on the road here?
No.
No?
No.
I am.
No.
Rangers win on the road. Benfica's been all over the map, crazy, weird. I can't trust Benfica at all about anything. I will go that Rangers get a win in Portugal. Feeling crazy today. Real Sociedad hosting AZ Alkmaar.
AZ, they've been one of the pleasant surprises so far early on, but Real Sociedad is a minus 208 in the composite. AZ is a plus 559, and your draw is a plus 373.
Sociedad have been so good. I don't think AZ will be a pleasant surprise here. Sociedad wins it.
Yep.
Ludogorets hosting Tottenham Hotspur.
All right. Considering that Ludogorets wants to charge yours truly $80 US for a T-shirt.
For a T-shirt? Not for a jersey?
For a T-shirt.
For a T-shirt.
Yes. So
you're not a fan of Ludogorets, so you're telling me.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
What do you think their number is at home against Tottenham?
It's probably pretty high. Plus 1,200?
Close. Plus 1,140.
I'm getting decent.
Very nice. Tottenham minus 417, and your draws a plus 567. I've got this at least 2-0 for Tottenham just because.
So the Eagles of Bulgaria are charging very high numbers for T-shirts.
Yeah. Whereas I can go to Basak Shahir's department store and get $11 US for a jersey.
For $11 for a jersey? Is it
$11 for a Basak Shahir jersey?
Man, craziness. Okay.
I just wonder what the shipping costs are. That's going to kill me.
Well, that's going to kill you either way. But I mean, 11 for a jersey versus 80 for a T-shirt. That's all you need to know.
No brainer.
Yes. Roma is hosting Cluj, and Cluj, their manager's suspended. He's saying, I don't want to do this anymore anyway. He might be leaving afterwards. He's going to be in the stands for this, I guess. It's in Italy. What are the numbers?
Roma, minus 278. Cluj is basically a plus 800, and your draw's a plus 415.
Yeah, Roma's been pretty good, and they've flown under the radar here for a little while. So I think I think Roma gets it done. I'm not touching that one with anything on an upset. My Napoli is going to Rijeka.
Mm-hmm. That is true. And the numbers are pretty much the same as the Ludogorets matchup. Rijeka is a plus 1170 at home, Napoli a minus 435, and your draw is a plus 555.
So Rijeka are known as Rijeka's Whites. They wear white as their home color, with a nice shade of like a light blue. I don't know what the little badge inside the badge is supposed to symbolize. I'm not really sure there.
It's not like a steroided puma, is it?
No, I don't know what it is. But they are in the city of Rijeka in Croatia. I think Napoli goes and gets it done, but Napoli's had some stumbles a little bit. I think everybody's having stumbles, so I'm not going to overreact. Backing Gattuso in a big way at Napoli. All right, our favorite team in the SDH Europa League universe, Dundalk. They go to Austria to face Rapid Vienna.
That they do. Rapid Vienna minus 357 at home. Dundalk is a plus 955, and your draw is a plus 500.
Hey, I love you, Dundalk, but I'm not putting any juice boxes on you. Not going to do that. Okay, so that's the 1255s. Let's go to the threes. What are we going to jump on here? Arsenal is at home to Molde.
Arsenal minus 333, Molde a plus 882, and your draw is a plus 510.
Arsenal should handle that, no problems. Leicester hosting Braga could be a little interesting.
Leicester's now up to minus 179. That one was in and around minus 135 yesterday. A lot of money has shifted to Leicester to get them to minus 179. Braga's a plus 493, and your draw's a plus 330.
Okay. Also 3 o'clock, the game we talked about earlier. Milan hosting Lille.
Milan minus 137. Lille's a plus 400 on the road, and your draw's a plus 285.
Milan, what are they at now with their unbeaten run? It is large. I don't have it. I want to say it's like 25 or 26 games. No, I think I might be wrong on that. They've played really, really well. Zlatan's been scoring for fun, but they have been rotating their team in Europa League. So Zlatan might not get the start against Lille. Celtic and Sparta Prague is where we will finish off with Europa League.
Celtic and Sparta Prague. Celtic is a minus 233. Sparta Prague's basically a plus 600, and your draw is a plus 410.
Celtic should handle it, right?
Yeah.
We think.
Jarrett?
Since Neil Lennon told everybody that his job was not on the line and there was no hot seat and his seat was comfortably cool, and kind of wagged his finger at everybody about it, too. I'm going to think they're okay. I'm not going to think they're okay enough to put a juice box on it, but I'm going to think they're okay.
Right.
I will think that they're okay against Sparta Prague. But if they're not, that heater just cranked up, and Neil Lennon will need to acknowledge it. Okay, so that is your Europa League. If you did not get a chance to see highlights from yesterday in Copa Sudamericana, the one you need to go check is a very wild thing that took all kinds of twists and turns. Sao Paulo and Lanús. So, first leg, if I do the math, Lanús won 3-2 in Argentina. Second leg, Sao Paulo won 4-3, but Lanús goes through on away goals because they got 3 goals in Brazil. Sao Paulo got 2 in Argentina, and the winning goal in the tie came in the 93rd minute from Nicolas Orsini, and it sparked scenes. But just the back and forth in this game, so it's 3-2 Lanús to start it in Brazil, going to Sao Paulo. Lanús scores first, Pedro de la Vega, 17th minute. So they're up 4-2 on aggregate, and they've got an away goal. Dani Alves scores in the 27th. Yeah, he plays like an attacking role for Sao Paulo because Brazilian football is crazy. So it's 4-3 at that point. Lanús has the lead, but they have the away goal. Then they get another goal from Brian Aguirre in the 44th before halftime. So it's 5-3 Lanús on aggregate with 2 away goals at that point. Sao Paulo is looking very, very bad. Well, they came out the second half a house of fire. Pablo Teixeira in the 62nd, so it's 5-4. Nicolas Thaler, own goal from Lanús to Sao Paulo. It's 5-5, but Lanús has the away goals. Then 89th minute, 2 minutes later, Gabriel Sara scores to give Sao Paulo the lead, 6-5 on aggregate. And then Lanús scores in the 93rd to go through on away goals. Madness. People were losing their minds. The highlights are a blast to watch. Highly recommended you watch that. I was not watching it live because I was watching Defensa y Justicia, which had to sweat it out a little bit. They conceded a goal right before halftime. Emmanuel Morales, bad goal to give up from Ezequiel Unsain. The goalkeeper doesn't catch it cleanly. I think Morales was offside. Didn't matter. You don't have VAR. He takes advantage of the bobbling and knocks it in. So then at that point, it was 2-2 on aggregate, but Luqueño, so 2-2 on aggregate. Defensa had scored 2 on the road. So it's still up for grabs at that stage. Brian Romero in the 82nd put it away for Defensa. A really nice goal from him. He wins it back at midfield, makes a run off the ball, gets on the end of it. Defensa, very, very open, sometimes too open in the way that they play, but Hernan Crespo is building something for himself as a manager and in that club, which is a lot of fun to watch. If you're just looking for a random team to watch that plays good soccer, Defensa y Justicia is a team you can get behind and you can watch on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Copa Liga Profesional de Football is back this weekend, and you can watch Defensa there. So, other games today in the Sudamericana. Let's see what jumps out. You got a lot of really close score lines. The only one that is really blown out here is Coquimbo has a 3-0 lead on Estudiantes Mérida. The second leg is at Estudiantes Mérida, so they got a lot to overcome here. The others are all separated by a goal. Probably the biggest one is the all-Argentine battle with Atletico Tucumán hosting Independiente. Independiente won the first leg at home 1-0. Tucumán gets the second leg at home. That one will have a lot of heat to it.
Tucumán?
That's the one I would recommend. Go ahead.
Tucumán plus 161, Independiente a plus 193, and your draws a plus 198.
Am I going to upset Gustavo here? I might. You're giggling. What are you giggling about?
Am I going to the question of am I going to upset Gustavo here?
Giggling like a schoolgirl. I gotta think about this one for a second. Do I want to do this? So we look back at the performances from the weekend in the Copa de la Superliga. Independiente won 1-0 at Central Córdoba. That's a good performance. Tucumán won 4-1 at Racing. They were maybe the most impressive team in the midweek. Now, they were coming off a midweek loss at Independiente. They looked like they figured a few things out. I'm going to pick Tucumán to overturn this and win it. I think Tucumán knocks Independiente out. Sorry, Gustavo. I apologize.
Okay. Your 5-15s, Emelec and Unión de Santa Fe. Emelec a plus 134, Unión a plus 212, and your draws a plus 211. You mentioned Mérida and Coquimbo. Mérida is a minus 104. Coquimbo is a plus 267, and your draws a plus 248.
I wasn't going to feed the true degenerates who are gambling on some crazy South American games, but if you want to, go ahead.
That's what we're here for. The other 730s, Bahia from Brazil against Melgar from Peru. Bahia is a minus 435. Melgar is a plus 1150, and your draw is a plus 470. Junior and Plaza Colonia. Junior minus 227. Colonia plus 667. Your draw is a plus 311. And Universidad Católica and Sol de América. Católica minus 312. Sol de América plus 826, and your draw is a plus 400.
Oof. I will probably be watching Emelec and Union out of the early games and Tucumán and Independiente out of the late games from the Sudamericana. What do we have on the Twitters?
A couple of things. Nathan Pugh had a couple this morning, and if it could actually render it and I could actually read it, I think it would actually be very beneficial, but that's just me.
Well, while you're doing that, Jason Nix on the Twitch pitch said, I really want to know what's gone on at Defensa y Justicia's grounds to have them install the razor wire on their fences there in Argentina. That's what's gone on.
Yeah.
Things get out of hand a little bit on the grounds. I don't know of anything specifically at Defensa that would have led to that, some kind of incident. But,
right.
Yeah, a lot of stadiums have it there for sure.
Okay, so now we have everything dialed up here. Nathan Pugh. Hey, Atlanta, so you're saying there's a chance?
Yes, there's a chance. Playoffs. There's a chance. You win, you get a result from Chicago not winning or Montreal not winning, and you're in.
Also on the board, B. I'd laugh at some of Manchester United's defending yesterday because it's funny, but seriously, how is that allowed to happen for the first goal?
It shouldn't, and players need to look in the mirror, but players have been letting Ole down for a little while, so they're not going to stop now.
No. C, PSG. Woof. I really want to see them in Europa just to see a weird game and how they line up on a Thursday from the far-flung reaches of Kazakhstan.
Yeah, we didn't get into that one. We knew PSG was missing a lot of pieces. We knew they were going to be in big trouble there. They did score first. They did have a penalty that Di Maria had saved that would have put them up 2-0. RB Leipzig came back to win 2-1. PSG finished with 9 men.
Nathan posted a picture. He says, and look, the sun came up today. And also, I hear there was some flaming garbage down in your neck of the woods at Longshoe. What have you been up to this morning?
I had no idea what Nathan was talking about until actually very recently, and I just found it at the AJC from Chelsea Prince. My neighborhood, and actually not far away from me at all, a trash truck caught fire and was forced to dump its flaming load in the intersection of North Highland and St. Charles Avenues. I knew the.
There are so many.
I knew the middle
that can
school
be said about that sentence structure.
I knew the middle school person on the show would enjoy that line. A trash truck caught fire and was forced to dump its flaming load in the intersection of North Highland and St. Charles Avenues. Fire crews were called to douse the smelly pile of rubbish, sending huge plumes of smoke into the air. Mark McKay of WSB said, "What a stinky mess," and got some overhead pictures from the helicopter on it. The blaze was extinguished by 8:30. I mean, I can see the picture. I know the area really well. Nothing was in danger. But, yes, I had nothing to do with a flaming load that was dumped in the street by a garbage truck.
Dumped its flaming load. That's awesome.
John, you are a child sometimes.
Sometimes?
Lots of times.
Thank you. El Mataflow with a question.
Okay.
Who joins Atlanta United first, Jackson Conway or Machop Chol? This is 100% speculation about a cost-efficient Atlanta Academy product becoming a backup for Joseph. Chol's very interesting and is a senior, but Conway's getting professional minutes.
Can I play the old El Paso commercial and the little girl who says, why not both?
Why can't we have both?
There's no reason why you can't. Jackson Conway, I think, is very close. I think he's done a lot to improve his position at Atlanta United 2. I think he's a complete number 9. Deceptively fast. Really good feet. He can combine with others and finish, and he scored some spectacular goals during his time with the academy and with the twos. I think Conway's as close to being ready as you can be. Now, Machop has been a fun one to watch because, you know, out of the kids from Clarkston and from the Decatur YMCA, who's done an amazing job of outreach in the Clarkston community for years and years and years, Machop and Lagos Kunga were two players that came from Clarkston, played together for a long time, came into the Atlanta United Academy together. Lagos was always further along. He was developed a little bit faster. Machope has grown so much during his time. I'm talking physically. During his time first in the academy and now at Wake Forest, he looks completely different. He's huge, first off, height-wise, and he's bulked up. That was always my concern, was that he wasn't strong enough to hold up at the next level. He's always had the 1v1 ability. He's added a little more goal scoring to his game. I think some of that is because of that body type that he has developed now. Look, having a college meal plan and weight room and all those kinds of things do help you a little bit. Machope's a big boy, and Machope now is not just that winger out wide who's going to go 1v1 with you. It's almost like the Cristiano Ronaldo evolution in a way, where Machope, I think, is a winger, but he's not the Ronaldo at Manchester United with a million step-overs and beating people on the dribble and serving it up. He can come inside a little bit more now, and he can score goals inside the 18 more as a number 9. I don't think he's a true 9. I think you'd love to see him out wide in a 4-3-3. But he would not be the winger who's just hugging the touchline. He would be the winger who's coming inside. I think Machope Chol is a pro player. And I think he is a potential MLS player. And I'd love to see him signed to a homegrown deal. I'd have no problem with that. He has done everything you wanted him to do at Wake Forest during his time there. A little bit more of a late bloomer, and I think some of that's down to the body type. But yeah, Machope, he could absolutely earn a pro deal here. And I'd love to see it. If he doesn't get a homegrown deal, I kind of think he will get drafted by somebody in the super draft. If for some reason that didn't happen, signing him to an Atlanta United 2 deal, absolutely. But I think you might need to sign him to a homegrown deal if you want to get him in, because somebody else will draft him.
Logistics statement from Chris Ashley, the discussions that you were having about building the community yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Chris Ashley says, just a recommendation, read Discord. Look into Slack as well. Having used both, he prefers the aesthetic and mechanics of Slack. That's what they use to build Soccer and Sweet Tea community that's been so much fun over the last few years.
Yeah, kind of different things. I mean, Slack can be good. I think I want to do more of the stuff you can do with Discord. So I'm leaning that way, but I will look into it. I'm just looking at it as a little more multimedia, which I think Discord is a little more comfortable in making work. So I'm leaning that way, but yeah, I'll take a look at it. We'll figure this out. It'll probably be an off-season project, but it is something that we will be adding for those of you who subscribe on Twitch, those of you who are Patreon members. I think that's been one of the cool things this year, has been really creating community out of all this with you guys who listen all the time. And there's a lot of you too who are like not on Twitter, but are a part of the Twitch pitch, and people who are not part of either, but send an email. So I want to create something where it is a place where people who are not parts of all the different elements and social media channels can join in. Turner says a podcast that he listens to does a call-in show through Discord. There's ways to do things like that are kind of exclusive to the Discord side. So we'll figure out what that looks like, how everything goes. There's a lot of functionality between Discord and Twitch, from what I understand. So it's not something I'm super familiar with either. I will be digging deeper into it, but it'll be a project coming very soon that we'll jump into just to increase the community feel that we're trying to build here.
And the last thing on Twitter to catch us up comes from Ricky Ricardo. Due to quarantine regulations, Yuri Pavlenka will be the only Werder Bremen player permitted to join up with his national team during the upcoming international break. So that impacts Josh Sargent for the upcoming friendlies against Wales and Panama. Local authorities in Bremen, according to Joe Prince right at NBCSN, require a quarantine period of 5 days after international travel.
Yeah, and anytime there is a quarantine period of at least 5 days, you can deny the call-up per FIFA regulations. So Josh Sargent will not be part of the U.S. squad. Reported by The Telegraph, the EFL have approved Derby County's takeover by Sheikh Khaled bin Zayed Al Nahyan. He was previously linked to the different possible takeovers, but he will be taking over Darby County, it appears. That is from the Telegraph just a little bit ago.
And they are in a world of hurt right now in the EFL Championship. They are in the relegation zone currently. They are Wickham has actually won their last two. Started out 0-1-7. They've won their last two. They are now 1 point from safety. John Nason's Coventry City at 8. Derby County 1-3-6. They have not won in their last 5. They are 23rd in the table. And the only reason they're not at the bottom is because of Sheffield Wednesday's -12 to start the year, their point penalty for financial violations. And so Sheffield Wednesday is the only thing keeping Derby County from being at the bottom of the bottom in the championship right now.
Oof. All right, other bits of news before we wrap up. On the American sports front, that is some crossover with things you can look for on the business side of MLS and things. Oh, sorry, Turner tweeted. Turner is at Lander. I hope I remembered that right, Turner. And they are preparing for their spring soccer season. There's been questions about what some of these college programs would do that pushed sports to the spring. I believe the SIAC announced they would not be doing football in the spring of 21, which some thought they might since they didn't do it in the fall. Lander is preparing for a spring soccer season. I believe NCAA D2, D3 across the board is. So Turner said, working on PA scripts for the upcoming season, have the dates and teams set, just need the times. Spring is going to be an ish fest, but man, it feels good to be working on stuff for games. Hopefully I'll be calling games over at Oglethorpe in the spring, and I guess late in the winter, early in the spring. I'll be curious to see what the season looks like. It will be an ish fest. I do agree. It will be very strange. But that's good news that you're starting to see that. Business stuff in American sports. So it looks like the NBA is going to start on December 22nd. 72-game season, so 10 games less. Probably some compromises being done here. That allows the league and the players to maximize TV revenue by playing on Christmas Day. It's always a big day for the league. Also, and this was the one that kind of grabbed my attention, the two sides are reportedly still negotiating salary escrow for players in the range of 18% for the next 2 years to account for declines in league revenue during the coronavirus pandemic. Remember, their cap is tied to league revenue, and their league revenue is going to be massively down, so how you make all that work is going to get really weird and interesting. But there was concern that they might not be able to start until like late January. December 22nd doesn't feel too far off what a normal NBA season looks like.
Yeah.
Sinclair, who everybody's big fans of right now, Sinclair Broadcast Group, they reported a whopping $4.23 billion impairment charge as part of their quarterly earnings report, acknowledging a massive decline in the value of the regional sports networks acquired last year for $9.6 billion, due in part to cord cutting and decreased distribution. YouTube TV and Hulu, which together accounted for about 10% of distribution revenue for RSNs, recently dropped the regional sports networks, they say amid a lack of live sports programming due to the virus. Probably some costs are involved in that too. Chief exec Chris Ripley of Sinclair said the company sees future growth opportunities for its sports business related to legalized betting, which is interesting because on the betting front, European leagues are getting away from gambling being involved in sports sponsorship. Here, it's becoming a bigger piece. Also, and this is the part that sent off alarm bells for me, Ripley said he sees future growth for Sinclair in a direct-to-consumer offering over the top of the distributors, which is kind of what I thought they might be up to by charging a higher price. It would be, well, we don't necessarily want to be on YouTube TV and Hulu. We want our own thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's what they're doing with the Cubs, with Marquee, and creating that network and trying to have their own entities separate and apart from everything else. So Not a surprise. And there's also rumblings that they may convert the tennis channel into something more than just tennis, although they did pick up all the rights to the ATP, and they're trying to be a history trove as well. So a combination of like ESPN Classic and ESPN for tennis.
Okay. Quote of the night from MLS, Chris Wondolowski talking about San Jose. We joke, and I say this facetiously, that our team is made for 2020. 2020 is crazy. We're mayhem. That's what our team is made for. It's why we love it. I wish we could be a little bit sharper and didn't have to endure all the valleys. I love how high the mountains are. We have to make sure our valleys aren't too low and stay more even-keeled. But our team is made for 2020. Keep playing, Chris Wondolowski. Don't retire. Keep giving
There's
wild
a
quotes.
great photo that the Quakes released after the match last night. And it's on their social media with Wando sitting on the pitch and the stands behind him. And there's a big salute. It's a fantastic photo. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, it encapsulates what he means to that franchise.
Don't leave us, Wando. Keep going. NWSL has hired former Learfield IMG College exec Mitch Pohl as their chief revenue officer. Pohl will lead the commercial sales and partnership marketing efforts, building on the momentum that they somehow pulled off in 2020. Learfield IMG College, they are the ones that have a lot of the or manage the rights to a lot of the college broadcast stuff. So a lot of times you might hear that as part of like the station ID for Georgia football. I don't know who all they have, a ton. They have so many different colleges.
They got a lot of them. Yeah.
They really run that industry right now. And it's not something that was there all that long ago. I mean, it's a fairly recent development. So you're bringing in somebody who has built something up really big in the sports industry to come over and grow the NWSL. That feels like a very good hire.
Yeah, especially if you're looking to market your rights in a certain way and cater them to certain audiences. IMG College really has figured out the way to be, on one front, to be that aggregator of all of the different colleges and be the traffic cop for all these kinds of things, and really put all these different properties out there for each individual college, each individual program. It's not just about the primary thing. It's like, hey, why don't we do a coaches show? Hey, why don't we do all these different elements? Why don't we do things that can accentuate what we know about a particular program and not just be that one big thing, but add other things along the way to make it a larger, more complete package.
Call-ups are starting to happen around the world. A lot of countries have already announced it. Others are announcing it as we go. You look at MLS clubs that could be in the postseason, that could be impacted by this. Remember, you're supposed to miss 10 days after you come back. Chicago, Gaston Jimenez with Paraguay, Miguel Navarro with Venezuela, and he's on the preliminary roster. He's not on the final one just yet. They would not, according to the current rules, they would not be allowed to play in Chicago's first game in the postseason, at least, because of that 10-day quarantine. D.C., which I believe would have the ability to turn these down based off quarantine rules in the District of Columbia. Edison Flores with Peru, O'Neal Fisher with Jamaica, Junior Moreno's on the Venezuelan preliminary roster. LAFC, two Uruguayans, Brian Rodriguez and Diego Rossi, could be gone. The playoffs will start after the international break, but that 10-day quarantine is going to come into question. Do I think they're going to scrap it? Yeah, I think they do. I don't think you're going to go into a postseason game without Brian Rodriguez and Diego Rossi. I think they will try to quietly scrap it, but I do think they will change that rule. They'll put something on about 2 positive tests after returning from international duty or something, because you can't have your postseason affected by that. I don't think.
No.
Let's see. Inter Miami, who is still alive. Alvis Powell was called up for Jamaica. Montreal is still alive. Yuka Ryatala for Finland. Nashville, Anibal Godoy was called up to Panama. NYC, Alexander Callens to Peru. Red Bulls, Christian Cáceres to Venezuela on the preliminary roster. Kaku to Paraguay. Pedro Galese to Peru from Orlando. Jose Martinez on the Venezuelan preliminary roster. So is Renzo Zambrano of Portland. Andy Polo called up by Peru 2 more Peruvians, San Jose's Marcus Lopez, and Seattle's Raul Ruiz-Diaz. Jason Nick says, I thought I heard something about adjusting that 10-day rule already. MLS is being a little strange with some of their announcements in this area. Like, stuff is not clear and defined enough. If they haven't made a big deal about it. I think they have to. They just can't do what they did last time during the regular season in October. They can't have players missing these big games due to call-ups and coming back into that. Okay, one of the Athletic folks talked about it. It's not coming from the league. That's the problem. Is when you're getting different people talking about it, is it speculation? Is it they're being told by the league? Is it they're hearing about it? The league just needs to announce it because you can't do a postseason with players missing the first game because they got called up to their national team because you're enforcing a 10-day quarantine. Create a system where they can test their way to be eligible, and if it's 2 tests before the game that they have to pass, if it's 3, whatever it is, do it. 3TH says it was one of those under discussion rumors kind of thing. That's the problem. They haven't announced it, and decision day Sunday. Just clarify. It's hard this year, and I understand that they've had to deal with so much. I get it, but it's gotten really loose here lately, and it leads to these kinds of situations that we shouldn't even have to wonder about. It should just be very clear, and we should understand what's going on. I hope that gets better. A couple other things from around the world before we go. I wasn't crazy. Milan is unbeaten since Italian soccer resumed in June. They look to extend their perfect record in Europa League against Lille today. Bounce around Asia, the AFC, their Champions League. Remember, the Western zone of the Champions League happened, and now the Eastern zone is going to be happening in the same place the Western zone one did in Qatar. Beef Pro not happy about it. They say they weren't consulted about this, and you're having all the teams from the eastern half of Asia come to Qatar for this, and it's going to be played November 18th to December 13th. They're going to be in a bubble scenario. It's a mess. But Asia said nobody stepped up to host it in the eastern zone. None of the teams that were involved, none of the countries that were involved stepped up to host it. They didn't have a choice. So I guess they had decided they were going to do a bubble scenario. There was no other way they were going to get it done. So that's what they're doing here. Man, we're getting all kinds of stuff now from people on the Twitch pitch throwing links at us. It looks like there were some questions about the Parley kits, which we never saw this year. They never leaked. I would assume they would have been made or at least designed. So that didn't happen. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, and there's talk about from Footy Headlines, the Adidas Ocean plastic not actually from oceans. Okay. Oh. So there's going to be some talk about this. The Parley stuff, they do more than the MLS kits. They've done all kinds of different things. They've done shoes. They've done that. I hope that the money that they have said is being donated to the oceans and ocean renovation and cleanup and all that is actually accurate. If that's a problem, then I got a big problem with it. Yeah. I don't know. If they've had to stretch things, they've had to stretch things. I'm not a big fan. Looks weird. So technically plastic that might make it to the oceans is the full definition.
They're rounding off?
No, they probably didn't have enough plastic from the oceans, and they had to have more plastic. So plastic that could have made it to the oceans might make it. Whatever. They're stretching things a little bit. No worries, Phoenix. All good. So there's a discussion about that in the Twitch pitch. I did not expect that one to come up this morning. That's a good one. Ricky Ricardo sharing links with us, and I want to make sure it's nothing that we missed. It is the Josh Sargent situation with Werder Bremen because he would have a quarantine coming back, and Werder Bremen has announced that only one player, and it wasn't Josh Sargent, is going away on international duty. So they can decline the call-up because of the quarantine locally about him returning to the team. So it looks like Josh Sargent will not be part of the U.S. squad. We'll see if they replace him. We'll see if they bring in somebody else instead. We've talked about it before, but put it down in your calendar, ESPN Plus, for Der Klassiker, Bayern and Dortmund this weekend. Should be a really, really good, fun game. So Bayern have scored 24 goals in 6 games. Dortmund have been the flip side. They've only conceded 2. They've kept clean sheets in 5 games of the 6. They lost 2-0 at Augsburg. That's all they've conceded. They've played 374 minutes in all competitions since conceding their last goal in the Champions League defeat to Lazio. Bayern have won 27 of their 28 matches in all competitions since football restarted in May. Lewandowski's got 10 goals this season in the Bundesliga, scoring every 37 minutes. That is nuts. That game's going to be fun, and ESPN Plus is really blowing it up with pregame coverage and postgame coverage featuring Jurgen Klinsmann. And Derek Ray and Taylor Twellman will be calling the match. I'm looking forward to that one. That's a 12:30-ish kick on Saturday. So we talked about the Lazio situation. You got fights back and forth. We'll be keeping an eye on that with the Italian Federation. Juve said something really interesting yesterday. Their official TV channel, a lot of the European clubs have an official TV channel. That's going to be available via Amazon Prime Video streaming in Italy. That's something new. I don't know if they're doing much of that here yet. They're not doing it in the sports realm, but Amazon is creating Prime Video channels in Italy. Live and on-demand content through additional subscription fees. It would be €3.99 for Prime customers in Italy to subscribe to the Juventus TV channel. I guess this would be launching their channel. I guess they don't have one yet. It'd be the first to launch on Amazon. But like Real Madrid's channel in English and Spanish is available on Fanati's. It's available a lot of different ways in Europe. Sevilla has one that's on Fanati's. I think Lazio and Inter have ones if you're part of the Italian subscription on Fanati's. Manchester United has one. You know, everybody kind of has these things. But for Amazon to start to pick these up, that's a little interesting. I'd be very curious to see if that is a new avenue. And good news on the Fuerza Diego front. Cracking jokes and making an amazing recovery, according to his personal physician last night, who is still getting hugs and still getting slaps on the back and still getting celebrated and cheered every time he comes out to speak to people outside of the clinic. So it looks like Diego Maradona doing well and could potentially be heading home here soon, and hopefully he gets all the time he needs to recover and people leave him alone for a little while.
Found out what the Rijeka crest is about.
Oh, boy. We'll finish with this. What do you got?
It has to do with a coat of arms that the city issued from 1967 to 1998. The Rijeka basically is a literal translation of the word river. That's literally what it means. Rijeka is river. And that is their old coat of arms is basically back toward their historical, where you had a two-headed winged bird with an urn that had water tipped over it and leading into a larger tributary. So it has to do with the rivers in the region coming out through a central location. So that's where the Rijeka coat of arms is from.
Got it. Final one from email, Gary Levitt, who listens to the show, going back to Columbus, and we'll get deeper into this tomorrow as we preview everything for the weekend. Talking about Nagby's performance last night, Gary said it looked like Nagby took the night off in the way he played. Worked relatively hard in the first 45 to get the second ball back, then tired. Orlando's counter took advantage of Columbus's lack of defensive transition. Gary's concern is Atlanta having the on-field leadership to do the same. Said Dom's service needs to be clinical. If it's just a loose ball played up in the air, Jonathan Mensah's really good in the air. Also pointed out, and this is a good one on Aloy Room, he can be great or weak depending on the night. Distribution, not great. So Atlanta will get some opportunities out of that. They're going to need to pick their times to press because Columbus, generally Caleb Porter wants to build up out of the back. He will get pragmatic at times and play more direct. will they do that here, or will they be trying to build something for the postseason? If Atlanta puts some pressure on Room, is he going to give you some opportunities back? That's going to be another little subplot here to watch. So thanks to Gary for throwing that in on email. Thanks to everybody who has listened and contributed and tweeted and joined us on the Twitch pitch, and all the different comments today. Tomorrow will be a Decision Day preview special. We'll touch on all of the other stuff very quickly at the beginning of the show. It won't be as Soccer Over There based. It will be very MLS based. We'll get you ready for all the storylines on Decision Day, what we think the table will end up like, and kind of where things stand going into Sunday. So be with us tomorrow, 9 a.m., twitch.tv/soccerdownhere, on the Soccer Down Here app, on soccerdownhere.net, or available as a podcast later on. We'll have the run-up for you on Saturday evening to go even deeper into Atlanta and Columbus. But we'll start that process tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.